4 fiancés died mysteriously before our wedding days, and everyone called me cursed, until an undercover detective became my fake boyfriend and discovered my own uncle had been murdering every man who tried to marry me, all to steal my inheritance. I'm Melody, and at 26 years old, I was known as the chef who killed men with love. That's what they whispered in my hometown of Savannah, Georgia, at least. 4 times I'd fallen in love, 4 times I'd gotten engaged, and 4 times the man I was supposed to marry dropped dead under mysterious circumstances. No illness, no accidents, just sudden death that left doctors baffled and me destroyed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. I grew up without parents. They died in a car crash when I was 7, leaving me with my Uncle Richard and a trust fund I didn't fully understand. Uncle Richard was my father's younger brother, a real estate developer in his late 40s with thinning brown hair, calculating gray eyes, and a smile that never quite reached those eyes. He raised me in his sprawling house on the outskirts of Savannah, sent me to culinary school, and always seemed supportive of my dreams of becoming a chef. By 23, I was running my own restaurant, Melody's Table, a cozy southern fusion spot that earned rave reviews. That's where I met Jonathan, a financial advisor with warm brown eyes, dark wavy hair, and a laugh that made my whole day brighter. He proposed after 8 months of dating, and I thought I'd finally found my happy ending. 2 weeks before our wedding, Jonathan collapsed during a business lunch. Just fell face first into his salad. The autopsy showed cardiac arrest, but he was only 28 and had passed a physical exam with flying colors just 3 months earlier. The doctors couldn't explain it. His family was devastated. I was shattered. Uncle Richard was there through it all, holding my hand at the funeral, telling me time heals all wounds. "You're young, Melody," he'd say. "You'll love again." And I did. Marcus was next, an architect with kind hazel eyes, light brown skin, and hands that could sketch beauty out of nothing. We dated for a year before he proposed. I was cautious this time, haunted by Jonathan's death, but Marcus made me believe in second chances. 3 weeks before our wedding, Marcus died in his sleep. No explanation, no warning, just gone. Another mysterious cardiac event in a perfectly healthy 30-year-old man. That's when people started talking. 2 dead fiancés, some called it coincidence, others called it a curse. I started to wonder if maybe they were right, if maybe I was somehow poison to the men who loved me. Uncle Richard suggested therapy. "You're not cursed, sweetheart, you're just unlucky, but maybe you should take a break from dating for a while." I tried, God, I tried. But a year later, I met David at a food festival, a teacher with gentle blue eyes, sandy blonde hair, and a passion for feeding hungry kids. He knew about my past, about the 2 men who died, and he didn't care. "I don't believe in curses," he told me. "I believe in us." When David proposed, I almost said no. But his optimism was infectious, and I wanted so badly to believe that this time would be different. It wasn't. David died 4 days before our wedding, collapsed while jogging in Forsyth Park. Another unexplained cardiac event. Another devastated family. Another funeral where I could feel people's eyes on me, wondering if I was somehow responsible. The police questioned me after David's death. They looked into my finances, my relationships, my mental health. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. I was just a woman cursed with the worst luck imaginable. But wait, it gets worse. A year later, despite everything, I fell for someone again. His name was Christopher, a software developer with dark curly hair, green eyes behind trendy glasses, and a quiet confidence that made me feel safe. He knew my history, everyone in Savannah did by then, but he said he wasn't afraid. 4's just a number, Melody. It doesn't mean anything.
Melody,
When Christopher proposed, I broke down crying, not from joy, but from fear. "Everyone I love dies," I told him. "I can't do this to you." "You're not doing anything to anyone," he insisted. "Whatever happened to them, it wasn't your fault." But Christopher died too, 3 weeks before our wedding. Same story, sudden cardiac arrest, no medical explanation. That's when Detective James Morrison entered my life. James was 30 years old, with sharp blue eyes, close-cropped dark brown hair showing hints of gray at the temples, a strong jawline, and the kind of steady presence that comes from years in law enforcement. He was assigned to investigate Christopher's death as part of a task force looking into unusual mortality patterns in Chatham County. When he showed up at my restaurant 2 weeks after Christopher's funeral, I expected more accusations, more questions about whether I was poisoning my fiancés or casting some kind of voodoo spell. Instead, James sat at the bar and ordered the jambalaya. "This is incredible," he said after the first bite. "You're really talented." I didn't respond. I'd heard enough false sympathy to last a lifetime. "I've been reviewing the cases," James continued, his voice low. "All 4 men, the medical reports, the timelines, the circumstances, and I don't think you had anything to do with their deaths." I looked up at him then, really looked at him. "Everyone else thinks I'm either cursed or a serial killer." "Well, I'm trained to look at evidence, not superstition, and the evidence says someone else is doing this." He leaned forward. "I think someone's been murdering your fiancés, Melody, and I think I know how to catch them." That's when he proposed the most insane idea I'd ever heard. He wanted to become my fake fiancé. If someone was targeting men who planned to marry me, James would be the next target. But unlike the others, he'd be ready. "You want to use yourself as bait?" I asked, incredulous. "I want to catch a killer, and I think this is the only way." Part of me thought he was crazy, but another part, the part that had spent 3 years wondering if I really was cursed, desperately wanted answers. So I agreed. We started dating publicly. James would pick me up at the restaurant, we'd have dinner together, he'd walk me home. Uncle Richard seemed pleased. "I'm glad you're giving love another chance, honey. This James seems like a solid guy." After 6 weeks of this charade, James proposed at the restaurant in front of staff and customers. I said yes, and we set a wedding date 3 months out. Then we waited. James moved into my apartment above the restaurant, officially for our engagement, but really to keep me under protection. We had backup officers watching the building 24/7. James wore a bulletproof vest under his clothes and carried his weapon everywhere. "If someone tries something, we'll be ready," he assured me. But nothing happened. Weeks passed with no incidents, and I started to wonder if James's theory was wrong, if maybe my fiancé's deaths really had been terrible coincidences or some curse I didn't understand. Then, 6 weeks before our fake wedding date, Uncle Richard invited us to dinner at his house. "I want to celebrate you two properly," he said on the phone. "Family dinner, just the 3 of us." James's eyes narrowed when I told him. "That's our window," he said. "If someone's going to make a move, it'll be somewhere private, somewhere they feel in control." We went to dinner wearing concealed recording devices. Uncle Richard was the perfect host, making his famous pot roast, asking James about his work, toasting to our future. Everything seemed normal, almost disappointing in its normalcy. After dinner, Uncle Richard insisted on showing James his home office. "Man to man," he said with a wink. "Got some investment advice I want to share before you two tie the knot." I stayed in the dining room, but I could hear their muffled voices through the walls. Then I heard Uncle Richard say something that made my blood run cold. "So, James, tell me about your life insurance policy. A police officer's pension must be quite substantial, especially if something unfortunate were to happen." Through the recording device, I heard James respond calmly. "Why would you ask about that, Richard?" "Oh, just making conversation. You know, Melody's had such bad luck with fiancés. 4 dead men. People talk. They say she's cursed, but I know better. I know she's just unlucky in love. Or maybe someone's been looking out for her interests." "What interests would those be?" "Well, there's her father's will, you see. My brother, God rest his soul, left everything to Melody. Restaurants, real estate, investments, millions of dollars. But there's a condition." Uncle Richard's voice took on a strange quality, almost proud. "She only inherits if she gets married before she turns 30. If she doesn't marry by then, everything comes to me as the alternative heir. Her 30th birthday is in 14 months. My hands started shaking. I moved toward the office door. And you've been killing her fiancés, James said flatly, to prevent her from getting married. Such an ugly word, killing. I prefer to think of it as protecting my rightful inheritance. My brother should have left everything to me in the first place. I raised that girl, put her through school, supported her restaurant. And what was my reward? Being told I only get the family fortune if she fails to marry. Well, I made sure she'd fail. How did you do it? James asked, and I could hear him positioning himself, ready for whatever came next. Tiny needle to the back of the neck, Uncle Richard said almost casually. Potassium chloride injection causes cardiac arrest, virtually undetectable if you don't know to look for it. Jonathan at his bachelor party when everyone was drunk and distracted. Marcus in his sleep. I still had a key to his apartment from when I helped him move in. David during his morning jog. I jogged past him, stumbled into him, apologized, kept moving. Christopher at his office. Pretended I was there to discuss wedding venues. 4 successful operations. Nobody suspected the grieving uncle who just wanted to comfort his niece. And now you're planning to kill me, James said. Well, someone has to protect Melody's interests. She's too trusting, too naive. She keeps falling for these men who just want her money. But you're different. You're a cop. This will be trickier. But I've gotten quite good at this. I heard movement, a scuffle. I ran toward the office just as the door burst open. Uncle Richard had his arm around James's neck from behind, a tiny syringe in his other hand aimed at James's neck. But James was trained for this. He dropped his weight, twisted, and threw Uncle Richard to the ground. The syringe clattered across the hardwood floor. Uncle Richard scrambled for it, but James was faster. They struggled, both men reaching for the needle, and I watched in horror as the uncle who'd raised me fought to kill another man I cared about. Then I heard sirens. The backup team James had positioned around the property burst through the doors, 5 officers with weapons drawn. Chatham County Police, hands up. Uncle Richard froze, his hand inches from the syringe. His face, the face I'd known my whole life, twisted into something ugly and desperate. You don't understand, he said to me, ignoring the officers. That money should be mine. I earned it. I raised you. Your father was an idiot for putting those conditions in his will. You killed 4 innocent men, I said, my voice shaking. You killed Jonathan. You killed Marcus, David, and Christopher. They were going to be my husbands, my family, and you murdered them for money. For what should have been mine, he screamed as the officers handcuffed him. It's not fair. I deserved that inheritance. They dragged him away, still screaming about fairness and money and his brother's betrayal. I stood in that office, looking at the tiny syringe on the floor, the weapon that had killed 4 good men, and felt everything hit me at once. The grief, the rage, the relief that it was finally over. James caught me as my legs gave out. It's okay, he said quietly. He can't hurt anyone anymore. The trial was swift. The recording James had made captured Uncle Richard's full confession. They found potassium chloride in his home office, along with a collection of syringes. A deeper investigation revealed he'd been researching my fiancés, learning their routines, finding opportunities to strike. He'd even kept a journal detailing his operations, like some twisted project manager tracking milestones. The prosecution asked for the maximum sentence. Uncle Richard's defense tried to argue temporary insanity, that the stress of managing his business and raising me had broken him. But the meticulous planning, the 4 carefully executed murders, the journal entries celebrating each successful prevention of marriage. It all painted a picture of a calculated killer who'd murdered 4 men in cold blood for financial gain. He was convicted on 4 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. I testified at the sentencing hearing, looking him in the eye as I described what he'd stolen from me. Not just 4 fiancés, but years of my life spent thinking I was cursed, that I was somehow responsible for their deaths. You made me afraid to love, I told him. You made me believe I was poison, but the only poison in my life was you. He didn't even look sorry, just bitter that his plan had failed. After the trial, I inherited everything my father had left me. The real estate portfolio, the investment accounts, the property holdings. It was worth almost $4 million. My lawyer explained that my father had put the marriage clause in his will because he wanted to make sure I found partnership and love before inheriting wealth, not because he doubted me. He'd trusted Uncle Richard to honor his wishes and support me in finding happiness. Instead, Uncle Richard had tried to ensure I'd never marry, never find love, never claim what my father wanted me to have. But here's the thing about James Morrison. Over those weeks of pretending to be my fiancé, something real had developed between us. He'd seen me at my most vulnerable, stood by me through the investigation, protected me from a killer. And I'd seen his courage, his dedication, his ability to stay calm when everything was falling apart. 3 months after the trial ended, James took me to Forsyth Park, the same park where David had died. We sat on a bench under the oak trees, and he took my hand. "I know this is complicated," he said. "I know you've been through hell, but I need you to know that what I feel for you is real. It started as an investigation, but somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you, Melody. The real you, not the role we were playing." I looked at this man who'd put his life on the line to save mine, who'd solved a mystery that had haunted me for years, who'd given me back the ability to trust and love without fear. "I love you too," I told him, "and I'm not afraid anymore." We dated for real this time, taking it slow, building something genuine without the pressure of timelines or inheritance clauses or fake engagements. James met my friends, learned to cook alongside me in the restaurant kitchen, proved that he loved me for who I was, not what I was worth. When he proposed for real, 11 months after Uncle Richard's arrest, I said yes without hesitation. We got married at Melody's table, surrounded by friends, family, and the staff who'd supported me through everything. I was 27 years old, finally claiming both my inheritance and my happiness. Today, I'm 29, and James and I have 2 beautiful children, a 3-year-old daughter named Grace with her father's blue eyes and my dark hair, and a 1-year-old son named Michael with James's steady temperament and my love of food. We expanded the restaurant into a small chain, using part of my inheritance to open 3 more locations across Georgia. James made detective and works in the cold case division, solving mysteries for families who thought they'd never get answers. Uncle Richard is still in prison. He sends letters sometimes, claiming he's sorry, that he was wrong, but I've never responded. Some betrayals are too deep for forgiveness, and murdering 4 innocent men to steal my inheritance is one of them. People ask me sometimes how I moved past everything, how I learned to trust again after discovering that the man who raised me had been systematically murdering my fiancés. The truth is, I didn't move past it. I moved through it. I let myself grieve for Jonathan, Marcus, David, and Christopher. I let myself be angry at Uncle Richard for stealing not just their lives, but years of mine. And then I chose to live fully, love completely, and build something beautiful from the ashes of that nightmare. My fathers will wanted me to find love before inheriting wealth. In a twisted way, his conditions, and Uncle Richard's evil response to them, led me to the greatest love of my life. James didn't fall for a wealthy heiress. He fell for a chef who made incredible jambalaya and refused to believe she was cursed. And I didn't fall for a hero who saved me. I fell for a man who believed in evidence over superstition and was willing to risk everything to prove I deserved happiness. Here's what I learned from this nightmare. First, trust your instincts when something feels wrong. If people keep dying around you under mysterious circumstances, it's not a curse. It's a crime that needs investigating. Second, real love doesn't come with conditions or timelines. It comes from people who see you at your worst and choose to stay anyway. Third, blood doesn't always mean family. Family is the people who protect you, not the ones who murder to steal from you. Uncle Richard thought he could control my destiny by killing every man who loved me. Instead, he led me straight to the man I was meant to marry, ensured I got the inheritance my father wanted me to have, and proved that evil eventually exposes itself if you shine enough light on it. If this story resonated with you, share your own story in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. I will see you in the next video.